Okay, we got some comments on the first show of TMRTV, and you said you guys would be interested in some band interviews, artist interviews, some insight interviews from behind the curtain type industry type stuff. So we're going to kick off with our first interview. This one is with Dan Byrne, lead singer of Reveival Black, and in a moment we'll be talking about him joining the band and then the recording of their debut album Step in Line. And of course, before we go much further, we would love for you to click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell, which if you're watching on YouTube is usually somewhere down here, or it might be on this side actually. And if you're watching on Facebook, then get involved with the Facebook page and the Facebook group by clicking join, and we will have lots of good times talking about the rock and roll that we love. So here we are, chatting to Dan Byrne of Reveival Black. So, on the line, we've got Dan Byrne of Reveival Black. How you doing, buddy?
Good. You okay?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Good. We're locked in, so we're not going to see each other face to face. It's as good as it gets.
Absolutely.
I suppose in some senses that's a bit of a blessing, isn't it? You don't need to see me face to face.
I haven't seen anyone's face in weeks of time.
Okay, well, thanks for joining TMR TV. We've never done this. We've never done a sort of a band interview, have we? We've never really gone into the history of where you're at and what you've done. So let's start there. So
Let's do it.
You know, the band isn't that old, as in its current lineup. You joined an established band called Black Cat Bones.
That's correct.
So tell us a little bit about how that happened.
Well, so the current lads in the band, I knew them for a long time anyway. It was fate really, because I wasn't playing any music, I wasn't singing, I wasn't playing guitar, I wasn't doing anything for a long time. And on my birthday, Ash, who's the drummer, sent me a message saying, would I be interested in like having a jam with them and seeing where it went, kind of thing. And I was more than happy to, because I was looking for a creative outlet more than anything. And we came down, I ran through a few Black Cat Bone songs at the time, and then by the next practice, the lads kind of went, would you be interested in doing this permanently, kind of thing? And I was absolutely made up. I couldn't wait to be back on the scene again more than anything. Yeah. And it literally didn't take long at all. Because I knew the lads off and on already. I went to college with Ash and Jamie as well, so I already knew those quite well. And I just slotted in absolutely perfectly. I was more than happy to be a part of the group.
Yeah. And so that sounds really good. And then you had a collection of songs that were obviously their songs.
Correct.
And involved in previous singers and things like that, and previous lyricists. And so how did that flow? How did it move for you as a singer, coming in, singing somebody else's songs effectively, and then obviously having to find the creative path to write your own?
I think the interesting thing is obviously singers have different ranges. They have different keys that they prefer. And one of the first things that we decided as a band was to go from your standard E standard tuning on the guitar and drop it a full tone to D standard. So that meant it accommodated my voice a lot more to start with, but it also gives a much heavier tone as the whole band plays. So obviously bands like your Blackstone, Cherries, Alter Bridge, they'll tune down and you'll get a much fuller, heavier sound. So that suits where my main vocal sits. So what happened was the older songs that I came in and started to learn, when we tuned them all down, not only did they have a certain vibe that we all started to like and develop, but it also meant that I could basically sing them in my own way or alter them slightly. And then as we got to the live set, the more and more you play songs, as you're probably aware, you'll change certain things live, or like certain inflections of when you're singing or different melodies, and it ends up sticking as part of the songs. So what happened was we took several of the songs that were outstanding towards the path of the album, as well as creating a fair few more and combining them into what we thought was reflect our body of work at the time.
Yeah, and so there were songs that they had that you chose not to go forward with because it didn't suit your style or they weren't strong enough or whatever.
There are a few songs that I played on the first few shows with them that we didn't play past the first show, for instance. Right. So it was a case of choosing all the ones that stood out to us and thought would work with the new stuff that we were starting to write.
Okay, and so there's a collection of songs on the debut album, Step in Line, and that are yours solely, and some that you've obviously taken on from what was Black Cat Bones. And so how did you get to that song choice then? Was it sort of natural where you'd come up saying, yeah, these are definitely the best songs? Did you record others that didn't quite make the grade with regards to the release, or how did it work for you?
It was honestly quite unanimous in terms of the choices, because we knew the songs we were writing we were really proud of, like your Wide Awakes and So Alive, and the first few singles. But then there are a few that stood out that obviously stood the test of time with Black Cat Bones when they started, and that we're still playing in the set, like for instance like Silverline, that remained, and The River, those kind of songs. And those ones, not only were they making it into the live set and we knew they had a certain energy, they just topped the other ones ever so slightly, and we just thought, honestly, unanimously, that they were all the perfect songs to go on the album. There wasn't much debate, if any, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. And so how many songs did we end up on the album?
10 songs on the album.
And were there any leftovers? Were there any sort of banks that didn't quite cut it? You hear songs about Kiss writing 50 songs for an album. Yeah. They probably all sound the same, and they could swap and interchange the lyrics and the melodies. Was that the case with you guys?
No, because I think we had a very clear mindset going in, saying these 10 songs are definitely what we would consider to be on the album. In the rehearsal room, we were playing with all sorts, and we were digging up old riffs and songs, and we were seeing what we could do with them. But in the end, once we'd finally locked down the 10 choices that we were going to go into the studio with, they were the ones that we came out with, which is good in terms of the fact that I think we nailed it pretty spot on when we were going in. We knew those songs had a certain energy to them, and part of that energy was the fact that we recorded the album live. So that is what kind of give it the same idea as when we're playing in the rehearsal room, when you can go to the studio, do exactly the same thing and come out with something that you'll know how it sounds, rather than adding synths and all sorts of it and create a weird soundscape.
Yeah. And of course, you're not established artists where you've got loads of albums under your belts and loads of studio sessions under your belts. And of course, as a new member to an established band, that's going to give you some comfort, isn't it? To know that this is how we're going to record it. This is what we know. We sort of know how we want it to sound. You're trying to express that to a producer or to an engineer who's never bloody heard of you before. So I get that live feel. How live was it? Was it really the full band recording and then some overdubs, or how did it work?
So literally, with the exception of myself, the other 4 lads went into a room, into the live room. The only person who was separate was Ash in the drum room, but it was literally like a sliding door away, and it's all soundproofed. And then the other 3 lads were playing live, looking at each other, kind of in the room. They were blasting out. We'd mic'd up all of the amps, the whole drum kit, and given the nod, it was kind of Ash does a count in, and then it was straight into the songs. There wasn't any, as far as I'm aware, there wasn't even any guide tracks. I think it was literally just, off Ash's kind of tempo, and he was steady as anything, recording it through, and we literally managed to smash out the 10 songs. Some of the songs we thought would be easier took longer, and some of the longer ones took maybe like 1 or 2 takes, and they're the ones that you can hear on the album at the moment.
So those takes were as a full band. So when somebody messed it up or something didn't quite go right, you do the whole thing again.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if someone lost a cue or went to the verse rather than the chorus or something, we just stopped, try again. And credit to all the lads, it didn't take as long as you'd think it would if that was the case. Because what we do before we went in was we hammered it. So we made sure that we'd got every single note perfect, basically. We didn't want anyone going to the studio going, hang on, what was it you played there? I didn't know you played that, kind of thing. So So we managed to get it all down pretty well.
And of course, from the live point of view, that must give you some confidence knowing that what you've recorded onto the album can actually be replicated live, no backing tracks. Does that happen? Does that give you that confidence when you go live to go, these are the songs that we know and we live with?
Honestly, yeah. I think the whole idea and the whole vibe of this band was to say we don't want all the random effects coming through the monitors or whatever. We'd rather just let our music speak for itself. So getting onto the stage and being able to actually put out an album that we're proud of, that also translates to a live set with little to no changes in. Maybe does an extra amp used on one of the songs that we don't normally use live, for instance. But that would be the only kind of difference in sounds. And it is comforting because it's something that we were playing with like weeks before, and then you go in and it's still the same setup with like a different amp or a different guitar. And yeah, it was honestly, it was amazing. Like the whole studio experience, especially recording an album for the first time. Because obviously, as musicians, we recorded EPs or like a single, for instance. But having the creative freedom to be in there for a week straight and just, bang the tunes out and mess around with things, or let's put delay on that thing, or it's quite liberating as a band to be able to create something that you wouldn't usually be able to do.
Yeah. So you have the album songs ready to go. You then reached out to Very Metal Art and produced some rather cool album artwork as well. Was that a conscious effort to say, we want this product to be as best as we can make it?
It was actually. We had a few back and forths with Andy because there was different ideas being thrown about towards the artwork. The first of being like very, very literal or metaphorical things, ranging. We had a world at one point with buildings to represent people, and it was all very, very, what's the word, imagery based. But what we decided to settle on was basically, because the album's called Step in Line and one of our songs is Step in Line, the whole idea of it was about being controlled and being told what to do, and like a Big Brother-esque image. And so as you look at our album and you look at the artwork, you can see many, many screens and like a CCTV almost. And each of those screens represents one of the songs on the album. So we wanted it as like a Big Brother thing, as if someone's watching all over the place, but to interject with what's actually on the album. So if you have Hold Me Down with Chain or Wide Awake with the Eyes and all the rest of it, you can actually pinpoint each song on the TV screens.
So we actually had to come up with 10 different ideas for the 10 different songs.
We did, and he probably hated us for doing it. But he really did put out the bag.
It's a great idea, and it's well executed, as Andy does, really.
Yeah.
So, cool. So you got the complete package. We then hooked up, started working together. We decided to put the album out as a DIY release, self-release, just to get the music out there. And then we had the first song ready to go.
Yep.
Hold Me Down.
Correct.
Get Me Down. Bat Me Down. What's it called?
Keep Me Down, yeah. Hold Me Down.
Hold Me Down. Okay. And that seemed to go down pretty well. We knew sort of craftily it wasn't the best song on the album, didn't we? But one to get the flavour going. We had a video for it. And then we hit them with Wide Awake.
Yeah.
And that seems to be, it's the lead track off the album.
Yeah,
was it
like that was a serious turning point in terms of the releases, and I think Wide Awake as a whole, it got so much momentum behind it, especially online and with getting onto Classic Rock magazine and getting streamed on Planet Rock Radio. There was a certain buzz about the song that really drew people in, and in all fairness, people are still finding the song now, and we're so proud to have released something because we feel that song represents the whole sound in general, and it really is like a power song. There's 4 or 5 chords in the whole thing, but it's a showcase of riffs and my vocals, if I can say that. And we all put 110% effort into the song. It really is one of my favourites anyway.
Yeah, and rightly so. And of course, video-wise, visually, it establishes the band. It says we are Reveival Black. This is what we look like, and people take the visual cue from a band, don't they? To go, okay, that might be a band I'll be into, and actually pay attention to the audio.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think people misinterpret image because I don't think people realise how much it can affect a band, honestly. We still get comments saying like, oh, it's good to see classic rockers with your long hair and all the rest of them. And you get your comments of looking like certain people, which take it or leave it. But, like image, visuals, it ties in with the album cover, I think. We wanted to make sure everything had a certain professionalism about it. And I feel like we got in touch with the guys from Reveival, who are Liverpool-based, and they've done a fantastic job with some of the videos we've done.
Yeah, and we've released a number of singles now, and then we sort of moved into the live foray, shall we call it, the live arena. And, you know, we've done some support slots, which have gone down well, established ourselves, get the set down right, see what works. See what works as a 30-minute set, then as a 40-minute set, then as a 50-minute set, and then
that's a learning curve in itself, because you go, oh, maybe this one, or you've got to create a certain arc to the set of things. You've got to keep everyone entertained, but you can't just be on like 200% the entire way. Or some people go like, whoa, or if you do one too many slow songs, you can bore them. It's as simple as that. So finding the right balance of heavy hitters and, you know, grooves and all the rest of it, there's an art to it, to be honest.
Yeah. And it's always impressed me about the band being willing to go out there and do the, for want of a better term, the lesser gigs, the crappy gigs, the toilet circuit as it's known in the industry. But you're prepared to hit the miles, get in the van, and take that support slot, which may not be the most the best support slot, but it establishes you. You take out of it what you can get out of it, whether it's a live performance for yourselves, or whether it's actually how does it go down with the 10 in the audience, or the 50 in the audience, or the 100 in the audience. So is that a conscious effort by the band to say this is what it's going to take?
Genuinely, I think it is, and I don't want to say people get into the music for the wrong reasons, but I'd say the easy bit or the fun bit is actually getting on the stage and, you know, performing as best as you can, whether there's 5 people there, 500 people there. There's not, people are paying to see you at the end of the day, and whether that's one person or, you know, 100, they're all interested in the band. They all want to hear live music, and the attitude of the fans to go, I want to go and see that band. You shouldn't just go, oh, there's only one person there, so we're not going to give it, you know, all of our... I'll come off stage when there's 10 people in the crowd, and I'll have no voice left because I've been screaming my head off. And it doesn't matter where it is or how far you have to travel or anything. It's a gig's a gig, and that really is the fun bit. The hard bit is behind the scenes, and, you know, plugging it and making sure you're still relevant and keeping all the social medias active and all the rest of it.
Sure.
Music's just what we live for, because we wouldn't want to do anything else. Half of us are in jobs where we're just, you know, making our way to the next paycheck kind of thing, so we can get back out and gig again. We wouldn't want it any other way, to be honest with you. It really is what we're living. Unfortunately, due to current situations, we can't be doing that.
No.
Yeah, but as soon as we can, we're going to be right back out there doing the same thing.
So the Rising Tour came along after some well-established shows at Call of the Wild, HRH, that sort of thing. And the tour was put together under the premise of going out with another band called Scarlet Rebels and doing a co-headline tour.
Wonderful band, yeah.
We also put the effort in to get the sponsorship and hook up with Planet Rock. Yeah. And went out on the road for 25... Well, we hooked it up around some festival shows, didn't we? Around some festival shows. Scarlet Rebels had Giants of Rock. You guys had...
and Hard Rock Hell AOR, which unfortunately...
didn't actually get there, did we? We'll come on to that in a moment, because obviously the tour got truncated. But we managed to get a tour together. And for want of blowing our own trumpet, that's gone down really well, hasn't it? It's sort of established us. We could have picked up some support slots and 30-minute slots with some other bands, and that would have been a good path. But to take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and say, this is us. Yeah. We want to go out there and do it and own the stage. And I know, talking to some of the other guys in the band, how it's different when you're the headline act and you know that the punters have turned up to see you and not just on the bill at the start. And, oh, who was that band? They were quite good. You know, who was that band on at 7:30? I didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
So did that get appreciated? Did you sort of understand the difference between, you know, going out and doing... Did you feel the difference between going out and doing a support set and then going out and doing a headline?
Honestly, it's a huge difference, because when you turn up to support someone, you go, this is a 30-minute set, probably, maybe a bit longer. You'll have your 5-6 stronger songs. You're putting in the set list and go, let's just give it loads and hope some of the audience might like us. You imagine if you've got like a well-matched support, you'd imagine a lot of the crowd might like you, a few might not. That's personal preference. When you've got to cater for an audience that are strictly there for ourselves and Scarlet Rebels, which at this point I feel like we have a pretty similar audience anyway, so it's only on the odd gigs where you'll be picking up people who haven't heard of one or the other band. And it really puts into perspective how hard you've got to work as well, I guess, because we're sitting in the studio going, right, well, I've probably got to say this at this time, and normally you wouldn't introduce the band, for instance, but you're sitting there going, I think it's important to appreciate who's on stage around me as well. I know, obviously, the crowd will. You've got to think of, again, the arc of the set, but this time it's a much longer set. So there's much more involved. Luckily for us, we managed to basically just pipe out the entire album every single night and just change the order a little bit. But it really was, it was a learning curve. And again, we absolutely loved the lads from Scarlet Rebels. The reason we knew we'd get on with them for so many dates is because they invited us down to their album launch, didn't they, in the Patriot, and we just hit it off. And there's not many bands I can say we get on with that well. We're just taking the mick out of each other every single night, and it's one of them where we were friends as well as just touring buddies, I guess, and we like each other's music, and it really was. It was a really, really great time. It really was.
Of course, we didn't get to finish that tour, and that tour didn't quite get to the end. I mean, it did well considering what's happened subsequently, yeah. and the isolation and the lockdown and what the country and the rest of the world is going through. Yeah. But from a musician point of view, it's galling, isn't it, to get that close to having a 25-day tour completed and to have it pulled from under you. But as I say, many bands didn't get to do that, and they've had to cancel tour after tour, so they haven't had that start to the year.
Yeah, and well, luckily the whole plan was from the January onwards, and we knew we were going to get in before a lot of the tours start, and that's normally a lull in the touring schedule, isn't it, around January? And I genuinely think it worked out really well because there's not that many shows there. People are still always wanting to go to a show. Granted, it's just after Christmas, but people who want to go and support live, it's their life, isn't it? And it's our lives, and it's the same people who are going to be at the shows anyway. So we really took advantage of that. And unlike bands who obviously were planning on starting the tours like at this moment where this is now hit, we did get a fair few under our belt, and it really set the tone for this year as well, because we didn't know what the tour was going to be like. We didn't know if we were going to get 5 people or 500 people, depending on the day. We just knew that we wanted to go out there, play our songs, and luckily for us, a lot of people managed to grab a ticket and come down. But it's one of them. Like the fact we're more upset that we're getting people going, oh, I had tickets and tonight would have been the Chester date.
Yeah,
and it hurts us because we go, well, we would have loved to have fulfilled the dates, and but it's one of the things we've got to roll with as a country, I guess, and the whole music industry in general.
Yes, and just to hope that we can roll with it for long enough for it to open up again. I suppose the advantage we have is being, bands that are still trying to break through and get bigger audiences is that we can still play to the smaller audiences. Absolutely. So while a 5,000, 8,000 arena may not be open just yet, we're sort of hoping that the 50 to 150 to 200. Yeah. So let's see what Mr. Johnson's going to think about that. Well, I'll send him a message. I've sent him a message saying, surely we can work it out. If we play a 5,000 arena, but there's only 50 people in it, can we make it work? Social distancing. It's going to be a challenge, isn't it? Going to be a challenge. So some of the highs then that you've had, tell us about them. What comes to mind straight away? Don't just say the whole tour. Don't just say one day, but just give us a feeling of.
A lot of it's been the festival. We really enjoyed the festivals leading up to this year. So when we had the Winter's End slot not too long ago at all, actually, that was for all of us. I think it was a Planet Rock event. I've been going to them for absolutely years, and it felt a real full circle moment to be standing back on a stage at Planet Rock in front of such a huge crowd, and that was one of possibly my favourite gig of all time. In fact, definitely my favourite gig of all time. We got invited over to Hard Rock Ibiza. Absolutely, we love that one just for a bit of sun, I think. But it was a great time. The first time abroad as a band, so that was it marked a really special occasion for us. The release of the album would be a ridiculous one because we released it not knowing who was going to follow us, who was following us, and I think it really established the kind of what are following, and the fact that we've got so many people who are coming to each and every show. We're getting to know all of our fans, and we get to hang out and talk. It's a really great community of people who are following us at the moment. But on the whole, because it's been just over a year now since Reveival Black started and all that, and I can't say that one show is much worse than another one because we're still having the time of our lives at every single show. And again, it goes back to the point earlier, whether it's 10 people or 1,000 people, we've been lucky enough to be on the stage and lucky enough to be sharing moments with all the fans who come down to the shows.
And there's a couple of big festivals coming up. We obviously hope that they go ahead as planned. They may well not go ahead as planned because of, we're all realistic. They may get rescheduled, they might get postponed, put back a whole year. But Ramblin' Man and Steelhouse on the horizon, they've got to be flags in the sand, haven't they?
They are two festivals that I've been to for 5+ years.
Since you were 12? I don't believe it.
No, honestly, especially those two festivals, because I've been that many times and I've seen all of my favourite bands. I've seen Whitesnake at them, and this year was a Ramblin' Man, especially. They had Lynyrd Skynyrd headliner, which is just again ridiculous, isn't it? And to be on a poster with names like that is overwhelming for me, honestly. And I'm praying it goes ahead because we couldn't be more thankful for having Steelhouse or having Ramblin' Man and should they go ahead, we're going to absolutely give it 10 billion% on the stage. We'll be using the whole runway at Steelhouse, all the rest of it. If it doesn't, obviously we'd love to still be on the bill next time it's on, but they are two huge festivals that we are so grateful to be on, along with your Call of the Wild, SOS, Rockwitch. I don't even want to name them all because I'll forget one, but there's that many that we're looking forward to, and hopefully they'll all still be going ahead as planned.
Good stuff. So tell us a little bit about the future then. This lull in proceedings, I suppose, gives you a chance to take stock a little bit, gives you a chance to consider songwriting for the new album, I suppose.
I think that's the key bit. Obviously, because we're not able to go and meet up and stuff, it's vital that we're at least staying productive. So even if it's sometimes as songwriters, you have a day when you can't churn out song after song, and you get a mental block. But if you can train yourself to keep making music or being productive or whichever, that's normally how you can break a writer's block. And you're, I like that idea. Let me stick that with something I wrote 4 years ago on my notes on my phone. And we'll be sending each other ideas, and this is a vital time, I think, because we would be writing for the next album anyway at this point. The fact that we're locked down kind of gives us a streamlined vision of the fact that we should be doing that, and I think I don't want to say blessed with a curse, but it can help to actually get our ideas in check. We can see what the plan will be for going forwards, and obviously since there's no shows, we can have a clear outlook of what's ahead of us, and provided everything goes ahead as planned and we stay on track for the album, I'm very, very excited to show everyone what's going to be coming up.
And while we are in isolation and a little bit for lockdown, you have been regaling the fans with some personal performances online.
I've been
some live streams.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about that. You've been singing to some of your favourite vocal tracks, I presume, have you?
So on the one day of the week when I do get a day off, because I'm still a key worker and still having to go into the shops and all the rest of it, I've been deciding to put out a cover. I've been trying to do once a week, and I think at this point I still am, but when this airs, I'm not too sure. But yeah, I've decided to take it upon myself to try and record some songs that either mean a lot to me or have been a turning point in my career. So, for instance, I did a cover of The Darkness, I believe in a thing called Love, and as some people who are either watching this or have followed the band, for instance, they will know me as a singer from Your Planet Rock stock when I was in the DIY band with Darren Meadow from Planet Rock, and we did the cover of I believe in a thing called Love, and it's those small things that even to this day when I'm going to a gig and someone goes, "Aren't you the guy from such and such?" I'll mark those moments if possible by doing a little cover of something, or even just to pay back to all the people who can't go to a live show, which is all of us. So
yeah.
But it's been fun. Again, it goes back to the point about staying creative and productive, and if I can still belt a song and annoy the neighbours, I'll still try and do that, you know what I mean? But it's been fun, it has been fun.
Good stuff. And am I led to believe that there's a single coming out from the band in the not too distant future?
We are trying our best to get all the assets sorted. We've sent our emails, we've got everything prepared, and I believe there may be a new song, well, I say new song, a song that will be coming out off of the album very, very soon.
Oh, okay. And which song is that? Do we know?
I think we've got TMR exclusive, haven't we? Yeah, the song that we're planning on releasing will be the title track of our debut album, Step in Line.
Oh, very good. So we'll look forward to seeing that. See if it all comes together. I've got a slight inside information. Slight inside information on that as to whether it's going to happen. All right, good stuff. So, Dan, thanks for taking time to join us.
You're more than welcome, sir.
It's a bit weird us doing a formal interview, I know, but hey, I've just launched TMRTV again, and it's going to be a bit of fun, and we want to give people insight into what musicians are going through, what their creative process is, and hey, better to start with you.
Thank you very much. No, I've been looking at all the old interviews as well, and I hope it continues just as successful as it was.
Good stuff, Dan. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.